Hi, my name is John. Welcome to another Sunday night nightcap. Tonight's nightcap, I do a job that I never ever thought I would be doing again. I install a set of kingpins and bushers into some front hubs. The front hubs are from a bubble car. Kingpins, bushers, shackle pins and shackle pin bushers were a really common thing when I first started the motor trade. The gentleman I worked for had a set of adjustable reamers, but it also had the guides and the pilots for keeping both ends of the reamers nice and straight through the twin bushes. I managed to trace his son down, and I've actually borrowed back the reamers and the guides that I actually used 50 years ago. It was interesting, so I show quite a bit of that. In part 2, I show a clever way for holding thin work in a lathe. Not my idea, but it is a clever way of doing it. And I also do, not quite sure what it is now, but I think there's a little bit of screw cutting, some aluminium involved. That's enough talk. Let's get stuck in to tonight's nightcap. I'm sure very few people recognise this as an Izetta front hub. That's what it is, an Izetta bubble car front hub. In English, Izetta bubble car. They were basically a three-wheel vehicle, two wheels at the front, one wheel at the back. The rear wheel was driven and the front wheels were steered. The job I've got to do is replace these bushes in here, what they call kingpin bushes. That's the kingpin in there, the bushes. Somebody has replaced them, but when you look, when you put the pin through there, it doesn't go through because the bushes aren't lined up. The bushes come oversized, that's them there. By oversized I mean the hole isn't big enough to accept the pin, and they've got to be pressed in and then reamed in line with each other, and I have borrowed a set of reamers to enable us to do that. Now I have done the other side sort of a practice before I started doing the video, and I've made a punch to punch these out and to punch them back in again. They're different lengths, the top one's long and the bottom one's short. Sorry, the bottom one's long and the top one's short. All I've got is the long bushes, so I've got to cut them to length. One sort of critical thing is there's an oil groove there which needs to line up with the drilling through there, so you can put some grease into the kingpin, so the grease goes into that groove there, through the holes and lubricates the pin. That's it there, quite simple. See, they've made a decent job of reaming them, that's quite a good fit, but unfortunately they aren't lined up. So I'm going to knock them out, put some new bushes in, and then basically go from there. There's been quite a bit of damage done to here. You can see it's got hammer rush on it, so I'm going to have to open that up slightly just so that I can get my punch in to drift the bushes out. See it there, how it's sort of been hammered over. Had a bit of a miserable life really. I don't know how tight these will be, they shouldn't be too tight. Indeed they're not. It's one out. That's the short of the two bushes out. I think I may go straight through and knock that one out straight through the bottom. Right, and that's the top bush out. That's the top, that's the bottom. I'm going to put that one in first. I'm going to put it in from that side. So I've got to modify one of these new bushes to look like that. Simple enough to do. We'll go across the lathe and do that now. These bushes appear to be decent quality. They're not brass, they're bronze. We've got to machine that down to about there. We'll take some off, then we'll do a little bit of measuring. Just about there. As I say, needs shortening as well. Need 3mm off that face. And not super critical sizes, but we'll need to try and get it as near as possible. I've turned things round, and that's the hole where the short bush goes. I'm going to put it in from that side. I'm going to wash it out with a little bit of brake cleaner. I'm going to clean the bush with a little bit of brake cleaner, and I'm going to put some high strength Loctite on it just to make sure that the bush won't move, because the hole is quite badly damaged. It's had some stick over the years. That's the stuff I use, 603 Loctite, the engineer's friend really. Once you put this on, kind of that's it. It doesn't come to bits. Right, so we've got some Loctite on there. That goes in there like that. And then the tool I made will go down through there into the bush. I want to make sure we get it in the hole nice and straight. That's really tight. That's not going to cause any problems at all. And it's just right top push this time. The hole for the top one's good. We don't need to do anything with that other than take the little rag off. Happy with that. Excellent, happy with that. I mentioned earlier about adjustable reamers. These are the reamers here. These were at the garage I started to work at 50 years ago. Sadly, the garage owner died. His son's inherited all of these things, and I've borrowed them off his son. I never ever thought I'd be reaming a Kingpin again. When I was a youth, I spent a lot of time with these things. A bit of a torture device they were. They used to have parallel flutes or parallel blades in them, and these modern, they're fairly modern ones, helical cut a lot better. The way it works is that shaft in there is tapered. It's a little at that end, there's at that end, and there's 2 check nuts, and you wind them up and down, which makes the reamer go bigger or littler. The clever part about the set of reamers is all these guides. So you have a guide that screws onto the base of the reamer, and there's a little sleeve that goes on there. That little sleeve fits into the bush on one end, and then you put the reamer through that way, and you turn it all around and go through that way. A really clever, simple setup. Has nothing to go wrong, it just does the job. I've put the hub this way up in the vase just so I can demonstrate how it works. Obviously I can't do it here because it's going to wobble around. So the reamer goes in through there, then that little guide goes onto there. The little guide goes into the taper of the bush that were fitted. You turn that and ream it through. I've done one, so now that's at full size. I'll have to back it off and do it in little stages until we get the sort of fit we want. But basically that's it in a nutshell. It's the pilot and the little guide. They're the things that make the set so useful. You can buy these reamers, they're not expensive, modern ones, but I haven't really seen the guides in the pilots. Anyway, we'll back the reamer off and start making the holes bigger. Right, so we need to back the reamer off, so it needs to go down that way. You see how the 2 adjusting nuts work within each other. There's a taper on the end, and that takes it down and makes the reamer smaller. Right, so it's going through there quite easily now, so we need to go down this way. Sorry, we need to go that way to make it bigger here. We'll go up that way, it'll make the reamer bigger. Right, so now we'll put the guide in behind the little pilot in the hole like that. Make sure it's located nicely, which it certainly appears to be. You always turn the reamer forwards, you never turn the reamer backwards. I'll adjust it once more, then I'll turn it round and do the other side. See, always turning forwards. I'll try the pin in. We know it's going to be too tight, so this time the guide goes into that bush and the reamer goes in from this side. So the guide's keeping it nicely lined up. And you just keep on going, adjusting a little bit, cutting from each side until you get the fit you want. But the beauty is the guide keeps everything nice and parallel. I rebuilt a real steam engine a few years ago, and I borrowed these to ream the holes for the crankshaft. They were inch crankshaft journals, and I used these reamers to ream them in line, and it's ran for years ever since. Right, back to this side now. That's actually an old snap-on ratchet. I'm not quite sure where it come from, but it is an old snap-on ratchet. I had a one similar years ago, a black one. These are collectible now, seemingly. Be a bit of age about that one. Just gonna go a little bit the other way, just to make sure I don't go too big. You can take it out, but you can't put it back in. Well, not easily. I was trying to put a big drill on one of these, big electric drill. It didn't aim very well. It's getting right in there now. Right, that's nice. A little bit tight in the inner one, but at least it's going through now. They're all in line. Right. That's sort of what you're looking for. That's spot on, that I like it. Excellent. Next thing is to take out the grease nipples and make sure that is a throw hole to get grease into it. Right, hopefully you can see the hole where the spray is coming through, so that one's lined up no problem. I've seen people fit bushes and the holes don't line up and they don't check, and you try and grease the Kingpin, you can't grease it. Right, and that's coming through as well, so John's really happy with that. Nice, very nice.